In today's show, 5 things we've learned about the Portland Trailblazers 5 games into the season. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, I want to talk about 5 things we've learned through the first 5 games of the Portland Trail Blazers season. I want to talk Scoot Henderson. I want to talk Donovan Clingan. I want to talk the defense, a little bit about the other sophomores on the team, and some stuff we kind of know about this squad. Before we get into this too much, though, I want to offer a couple caveats here. We're kind of grading on a curve. I am under the impression that the Blazers are not a particularly good team. So when I'm talking with some sort of rosy positive language, it's not that I think the Blazers are going to be highly competitive. Everything here is like relative to their standing from a year ago, relative to our expectations, those types of things. And not to say that like they can't get better, and I think they are, just like these things kind of can get clipped sometimes, and it's like he thinks they're great. I think there's some obvious positives. I think there's some obvious negatives, but like I'm certainly grading on a curve here. The other thing is I'm going to very specifically not cite numbers in this show. I'm statistically oriented, I would say. I'm not like a stats guy. I'm not even particularly good at math. I'm good at arithmetic. I can add and multiply pretty well. But like I'm not like a high level numbers guy. I like faked my way out of math in college for the most part. But shout out to Computer Science 201. But like I think they matter. I think watching the games is incredibly important, and you can't learn without seeing it with your eyeballs, but the numbers are going to help you understand the game more. They're going to provide deeper context, but 5 games in, I just don't think the numbers are meaningful. So when I talk about the subjects here today, I'm very specifically not going to cite stats. And for example, why I'm not going to do that here is because the first thing I think we've learned through the first 5 games of the regular season is that Scoot Henderson is better. Scoot Henderson has taken a step forward. Scoot Henderson is making strides in year 2. And I think that is best understood by watching him play. I know the numbers, right? Like I'll give them to you just for fun. He's still shooting south of 30% from 3. He's not shooting 50% from the floor. He's overall like it is what it is. But if you watch him play, and particularly when you consider where he was a season ago at this time, the first 5 games of Scoot's career as a rookie a season ago were troubling. They were so bad to be like, like this is serious red flags and warning signs and all of these things. Like they were a troubling first 5 games of his career. So if you look at like, shout out to my guy Tyler Rucker, former guest on the podcast, and the owner creator of No Ceilings, the incredible draft resource. Tyler shared Scoot's first 5 games last year's stats versus first 5 games this year's stats earlier this afternoon on Twitter, and I saw that as I was kind of preparing for this show, and I was like, yeah, yeah, but I think the feel is better with Scoot. Like you can see it. He still has some, he had an incredible stinker to open the season, right? He really was not good in that game, and he had finished with 22, and like but I think he was not good. That was a gross game, and it was like since then, I think he's taken steps forward. You can just, and I think the second game of the year might have been the best game, one of the best games I've ever seen him play. Straight up, one of the best games I've ever seen him play. I think it is one of the 3 or 5 best games he's ever played. He was just really good. And I think the control you see Scoot play with, it isn't just, people say like he's slowing down. It's not just slowing down. It's knowing when to speed up. It's knowing how to change speeds. It's being a little more organized. His footwork isn't perfect yet, but it's being a little more organized when he's getting himself going towards the rim. Because last year he would get sped up and he would jump, and it's like, he would jump off 2 feet and he would look tiny because he wouldn't get his feet organized, and he'd just be jumping into someone. He's got much better at using his actual explosiveness, showing his functional athleticism. He's probably not a tier 1 athlete, right? Like he's not young Russell Westbrook, maybe like we thought he could be. Russ is like a category maybe no one will ever get to again, or at least a very, very rare air. But like Scoot has harnessed his athleticism better. He is making better decisions. He just looks like a more functional basketball player. And 5 games into the season suggests that there are 77 more games to be played. That is the nature of this thing. So I don't want to go too far here. A 5-game sample size, except for my true Shaden Sharp zealots out there who believe a 5-game sample size is maybe proof of an MVP. But like, I think any 5-game sample size, good or bad, is maybe not indicative of anything. It can be disheartening and it can be promising. And I would say if Scoot's first 5 games have been more on the promising side, certainly than disheartening, because you can just see him get better. If you watch him play, he looks much closer to an NBA point guard. I think there has been several nights this year when he's straight up been the Blazers' best point guard. That speaks to Anfernee Simons really struggling to begin the season, but like Scoot looks functional. He is a connective part of the offense. He's the player on the team that connects the other 4 players better than anyone else because of the way he uses screens. He keeps his dribble alive. Guys know that he is a willing passer, so they're ready and they cut and they make plays off of him because they know he's looking to set you up. He's connected with both centers on lob passes and kind of made that a thing that the Blazers have brought back. And remember alley-oops? Scoot is better. He has made strides in year 2 that were not clear that he was going to be capable of making in year 1. And then we didn't see him in summer league, so you just have no idea what he's been like. And after the first night of the season, when you're like, he's obviously imperfect and has, the finishing isn't perfect and the shooting isn't there all the way, but he is so much further along. He's improved. If we've learned one thing in the first 5 games of this season, it's that Scoot Henderson has made positive strides forward. He's better than he was with the playmaking, with the decision-making, with the use of his functional athleticism. In all of those ways, Scoot Henderson is a much better player and an obviously much better player in year 2 than he was as a rookie. And when you're hoping, maybe you're hoping that he's, I don't know, prime Derrick Rose or whatever, but like when year 1 went the way it did, you were hoping in year 2 Scoot would take strides forward quickly and then continue to build on those things. And I think even, I was maybe more skeptical than some, but like he just looks like his ceiling may be still in question, but his floor is much more, I'm still very, very comfortable with his floor as like NBA point guard because he clearly has a better feel and a better use of many of his gifts than he did a season ago. Scoot has made positive strides. That's one thing we've learned. Let's talk about some other things we've learned, including the Blazers defense, which is mostly good, or at least, and I think this is maybe the big one, never bad. Let's talk about that in the second segment. Join me there, won't you? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. FanDuel is ready to help you get in on the action during NFL season. I'm recording this at the very tail end of Thursday night football, but if you're watching the NFL this Sunday weekend and you're a new customer, you can bet $5 and get $100 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So if you're watching the games, you can and you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view play-by-play and so much more right there on the same page in the app where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NFL. All right. So we've learned that Scoot has made positive strides. Undeniable, Scoot is better in year 2 than year 1 Scoot. What else have we learned about the Portland Trail Blazers? Well, I think it's that in a way that probably hasn't been true since at least the 2017-18 season, the last time they were like truly a good defense. The following year they were fine, but I think really since the 2017-18 is when I've kind of felt this way. It's like the Blazers don't put out lineups that I am worried will get shredded on defense. That just straight up hasn't been the case. The Blazers put out mostly lineups that I am confident can guard. It starts with the way they've chosen to structure the rotation. With Scoot Henderson coming off the bench, the Blazers start a big, competitive, quality defensive lineup. Toumani Camara, more on him a little bit later, but like he can really guard. And his ability to really guard helps everyone else. Deni Avdija is an upgrade on defense on the wings from some other options they've had in the past. You put Toumani and Deni on the court, that is a positive defensive group. You put Toumani and Deni on the court along with Jeremy Grant, and Grant is put in a role where he can be a better defensive player. You put those three on the court next to DeAndre Ayton, and while Ayton has some obvious limitations as a rim protector, he isn't, you're not getting just the dam breaking and having just him to guard and protect the rim with just endless drives right at him, which would really expose some of DeAndre Ayton's struggles. I think we've seen some games this year where Ayton has been, particularly the first Pelicans game, where Ayton has been kind of caught in no man's land on drives, and you could see his obvious limitations on that end. But they don't put out defensive groups that are like straight up bad, because Ayton can be like a neutral to positive defender often. I think more often than not neutral, but like you get groups that are, you add plus defenders around neutral defenders and it helps. Anfernee Simons has been, for his career, a straight up bad defensive player. Bad at it. I don't think you need to sugarcoat it any other way. He's been bad at it, but with playing with the wings, playing with size, has helped hide some of Ant's deficiencies. And I think this, for me, is the sort of small sample size stuff that I am very curious about. But the minutes that Anfernee Simons plays alongside Scoot Henderson, you're just small. That's a small backcourt. It is what it is. Like, you're just a small backcourt. And Scoot has well, he kind of looks like he might be good on defense at some point, is not a good defensive player right now. Do not get it twisted. He's not a good defensive player right now. He might end up being that at some point in his career, but he's not in year 2. The strides he's made are feel on offense, is not feel on defense. You watch him off the ball, he's still working on it. But even the Ant and Scoot pairings, where you have two negative defenders who are both, under 6'3", I think Ant might be listed as 6'4". I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure that's true. You have two smaller guards. Those lineups, to my eyeballs, have not been shredded. And I will say that in the numbers suggest that that's sort of right, but I think the numbers are meaningless. I'll say to my eyes, what I haven't seen is that teams feast when those two are on the court. They say, okay, we've got a matchup. Certainly teams matchup hunt, but even like the Clippers kind of a bad offensive team, but even the Clippers on Wednesday evening couldn't get what they wanted, right? They tried to go get Anfernee Simons in crunch time, and Ant held up enough, and you've got good defense on the backside, and it worked enough to squeak out a win against, obviously, a team with some limitations and a team with some deliberate James Harden-ness, but like, it works. That group, even so, I feel like the difference for me, what I've learned in 5 games, is there aren't lineups that they put out there where I'm like, well, this group can't stop anyone. That's so you have to score. And that feels so different from the past iterations of this team, where it's like, you would put them out there and it's like, well, this group isn't going to be able to guard. And I don't feel that right now because of the rotation for the most part. You get a little bit of the Ant and Scoot pairing, but for the most part, you get point guards on the court with size. size at the wings. The defense from the second unit, whether it's been Chris Murray and Jabari Walker or Chris Murray and Ryan Rupert playing alongside Donovan Clingan, you don't have, you're not getting shredded in those minutes necessarily yet this season. Obviously 5 games, more to come and all of those things. And it's a tiny little sample size on 2 games against the scuffling Pelicans. But like, I feel comfortable watching this. If there's something I've learned in the first 5 games is that I don't ever get nervous. Like, well, they're not going to be able to guard if I get nerves, I don't know if nervous is even the right word for my like viewing experience, but I don't ever say, well, defense is going to be an issue with pretty much any lineup they put out there. And that includes the Ant and Scoot lineups. Will that last for the final 77 games? I doubt it. But I think so far in the first 5 games, I feel comfortable that the Blazers basically don't put out any bad defensive lineups. And part of that couples with the third thing I think we've learned. Donovan Clingan can guard. Dude can play defense. The offense is still a major work in progress, and his conditioning is, I think it's kind of a buzz term with Blazers fans and some media members. I bet he could play a little bit more. He played 20 minutes in a couple preseason games. He could probably play more than he is playing right now, and he might be someone. He might be a heavy breather type, right? Like he might be someone who looks tired, but like more so than he is, I think. But like, I think conditioning is a thing for him. I think realistically, a guy who played 22 minutes a game in college is going to have a trouble adapting to playing that many minutes at the NBA level. The court is just bigger the way the sport is played in the NBA. There's more space to cover and the rules are different and all of those things. Like the court is dimensions are the same size, but like the actual way the game is played, the court is bigger. So like, I'm not surprised that Clingan is maybe still catching up cardiovascular wise, but he can defend. He knows how to play defense. The offense might always be the weaker part of his game. I think it very clearly will be the weaker part of his game, and we'll see kind of where he gets to as an offensive player. So far, he's mostly a garbage man. That's where he finds his offense, and he did hit a 3-pointer against the Clippers. But Duke can defend. He knows that he's big. He handles space really well. He does the thing where, you're guarding well. The Pelicans did this in the second time they played against the Blazers. They were freaking out about how long Donovan Clingan was in the paint. They were whining about how much he was in the paint. That's a great sign for a big man. If they are complaining about 3 seconds, you know why? It's because when you're in the paint, they feel like they can't get to the rim. They feel like they can't get clean shots at the rim. You've seen him block shots as on the ball, guarding the guy he's guarding. You've seen him block shots as a helper. You've seen him alter shots. You've seen him, be big and in the paint, and so guys don't go all the way to the rim. Just deter a drive in general. Like not just like, oh, I'm going to shoot it in a weird way. Nah, I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to kick out and do something else. Clingan can guard. What his heights are as a defender, I think will be an interesting thing to get to. Like, is he defensive player of the year quality, or is he just like solid forever quality? I think the ceiling at 5 games in is unknowable, but the defensive chops, like his ability to be a positively impactful defender 5 games into his career as a 20-year-old, undeniable. Dude's already got the goods on defense. It's what else he can build on top of that, and can he ever be a dude who plays 29 to 34 minutes a night as an NBA starter? I don't think we know that now, right? Like, I don't think we'll have a way of knowing that 5 games would have any way of knowing that 5 games in the season. It's clear that he isn't that yet. But I think what we do know and what we have undeniably learned is that Clingan can play defense in the league already. And that has helped them not put out any, that helps the third thing we've learned, the second thing we've learned is that they just don't put out a lot of lineups that look bad on defense. They don't put out a lot of negative defensive lineups. Let's talk about a couple other things we learned, including some love for the sophomore class on the Trailblazers and who can get a bucket. Join me in the third segment. We'll talk about both of those items. First, though, let's talk Gametime. It's the place for last-minute tickets. It's the app that has so many features designed to allow you to quickly save money on buying tickets to the things you want to see, whether that's sports, whether that's comedy shows, whether that's concerts, whether that's live theater. Gametime's got you covered. Gametime's super, super quick and easy to use. You search what you're looking for, it pulls up the venue right on your app, and you will see the seats and the prices right there marked in the venue that you are about to attend. I like to toggle all-in pricing so you get the total upfront costs. There's no surprises at checkout. And when you are browsing with that all-in pricing toggled on, check out the Gametime picks. You'll see the little Gametime logo when you're in the app, and they've curated selections to help you save money no matter where in the venue you want to sit. And plus, if you're curious, you can click on the seat view and get a panoramic view from your seat right there in the app before you make any decisions on what to buy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use that redemption code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Still a pass first point guard, still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. We talked about 3 things we learned. Let's talk 4 and 5. The 4th thing I think we've learned through the first 5 games of the season is that the sophomore class is not just Scoot improving. The sophomores, save for maybe Duop Reith, who we haven't seen very much, look better. Ryan Rupert just played his most significantly positive minutes in a game on Wednesday against the Clippers. After the game, Chauncey Billups said they really celebrated Rupert in the locker room. His 7 points to begin the 4th quarter kept the Blazers in the game, and he looked at times during Summer League in July like a dude who would not be in the NBA for long. He looked like a guy who he couldn't quite defend enough to matter. He couldn't quite do enough on offense to be someone that you worry about. And if you can't quite defend enough to be like, okay, well, at least he can really do that, and you can't quite do anything on offense, you know what you are? You're someone who's playing in another league. Like that's the nature of it. It is a cutthroat business in the NBA, and Rupert looked like someone on the outside. And you can say, oh, he was young and he's a second-round pick. That is all true. That's all true. But the league doesn't wait for you. He's not going to have a long window to prove he can do it. And then the first 5 games of the season, the little bit of cameos we've seen from Ryan Rupert, he is clearly better. His handle is, I said I wasn't going to use numbers, so I'm just going to make one up. His handle is roughly 900% better than it was a season ago. He can get where he wants to go a little bit. It's not like he has a whole bag and a whole bunch of moves, cross, tween, hezzy. But like a single crossover, get to your right hand, drive hard, finish with, finish high, finish through contact. Like Rupert has been better. Rupert has shown this signs that he could be both a positively impactful defender, which I think he was billed as, but just like wasn't ready to be that last year, and has more offensive stuff than he's ever shown in the first five games. He's shown more offensive stuff than he ever showed last year. Ryan Rupert among the sophomores to make strides. Chris Murray, a first-round pick who just he was a really good defensive player as a rookie. Don't get it twisted. A really good defensive player as a rookie. By measuring him against other rookies, an elite defensive player. Measuring against the rest of the league, a straight-up good defender in year one. And that's what you want to, when you draft a guy who's 23 when he comes into the NBA, you want him to have a thing that he can build on. The challenge for Murray was that the other side of the court on offense, he just couldn't do anything. And the shooting was such a struggle, and his ability, he doesn't have a ton of athletic pop. So like his ability to get into the paint and get shots off wasn't quite there. And he was such a negative on offense that it was concerning what his future would be in the league, because you can't be, the league has gone away from the specialists, right? You can't just be an Andre Roberson defensive specialist. You can't even really be a Thabo Sefolosha defensive specialist who can shoot a little bit. You need to be able to play and do stuff on both ends to have a role in the league. And Chris he struggled on offense so much as a rookie, and then he had such a stinky summer league on offense that it's like, there was, I legitimately, I don't know if I was like worried or whatever. He's on a rookie scale deal. He's probably going to get at least this season and 2 more after it to figure out what it looks like on this particular team. So there's like a lot of room based on the way his contract works for him to get right. But he has just been so much better. He started this. I noticed this in even in preseason. I mentioned it, but I think we've seen it continue in the regular season. Is that he's shooting those no dip threes, catch high, keep high on his catch and shoot threes. I think that takes out some of the mechanical stuff with him because it's just like catch it, shoot it. Also lets him to make some decisions. He's still had some games this year where he has been bad on offense. He's still had some games this year where he's not taken shots where he absolutely needs to take them. Again, I'm grading on a curve here. I'm not trying to tell you that Rupert or Murray have taken, are like surefire building blocks of the future or even part of the next good Blazers team. What I'm telling you is undeniably through the first 5 games, what we've learned is those dudes are better than they were a season ago. Those dudes are better than they were in July. They can play. At least on this team, on this current iteration of the roster, those gentlemen can give you some minutes that are helpful, sort of relative to their coworkers. Toumani Camara doesn't need those caveats, though. That dude can hoop. Rupert is like, in context, Rupert's gotten better. Chris Murray, in context, Chris Murray has gotten better. Toumani Camara is just a straight up good basketball player. I think even at the end of last season, there was a question on the show. It was like, who on the Blazers bench would like get minutes in the playoffs? And my pick was Toumani Camara because I just think the defensive versatility and increasingly his ability to go get offensive rebounds. The Blazers kind of let Toumani Camara freely crash the offensive rebounds. Does it sometimes destroy their transition defense? Absolutely it does. But does sometimes he tip an offensive rebound to DeAndre Ayton and keep it alive and allow for a game-winning bucket in the final 100 seconds against the Clippers? It also does that. Yes, it also does that. Toumani is just... He's just a basketball player. He's just a straight up good basketball player. Would he start on every team in the league? No. But I do think he is trending towards every single team, like maybe not the freaking Celtics or whatever because they're loaded, but like he would play minutes on every single team in the league, except for maybe that one team in Boston. They got a lot of wings. But like it wouldn't surprise me if Toumani Camara played over Sam Hauser. That wouldn't be a particularly surprising outcome. But he can hoop, man. He has shown more on offense than I think he had. He's still not a great passer, but I think the passing has obviously improved. He's still not a great driver, but we've seen a couple times him attack closeouts. Kevin Porter Jr. in the game against the Clippers on Wednesday had a horrendous closeout. He just closed out reckless to Toumani Camara. And you know what Toumani Camara did? He accepted the reckless closeout. He said, "Go on by, young man. Go on by, my son." KPJ flies out of bounds. Toumani Camara gets into the paint to his left hand and makes a running banker off the glass with his strong hand. Take what the defense gives you, that ability to do some stuff with the ball on the ground, and he is just a good defensive player. A good defensive player. He can defend. He can defend. He can defend a bunch of positions. The defensive versatility, his size, athleticism, and ability to guard in a variety of ways. Toumani Camara, among the sophomores, has probably, I don't know if he's taken the biggest leap, but he has leaped into a place where he is the most impactful of them in terms of positive impact. He doesn't, his game isn't like Toumani Camara could be your best player, give it to him and let him go score. He would be way out of his depth in that type of situation. Like if Toumani Camara run 15 pick and rolls, right? But in terms of like dude who could help on a variety of lineups, Toumani is a clear positive impact that doesn't need the caveats and the grading on the curve of some other gentlemen I have mentioned in this show. I'm going to close here with, I've been pretty rosy here, and intentionally so. It's a Friday show. I'm not going to try to bum you out as we head into the weekend, but I think one thing we've absolutely learned about the Blazers is that they don't have enough dudes who can create their own shot. Speaking of Toumani Camara not being able to run 15 pick and rolls, Toumani Camara can't run 15 pick and rolls in a game and give you enough positive outcomes out of it. The Blazers do not have enough dudes currently on the roster as constructed that can go create their own offense. they're missing Shane Sharp right now, and when he comes back, that will help, assuming that Sharp is continuing a positive trajectory and all of those things. Scoot Henderson can sort of do that, but not at like a high level because he's not a good enough shooter from anywhere on the court to make him a high-level shot creator. Anthony Simons can do that, but he's quite frankly been bad to begin the season. So like he's their best and most dynamic shot creator, and he hasn't been all that good yet. Jeremy Grant, his best games are when he has been a play finisher, someone who fills in behind the main action and just takes shots, finishes plays, attacks closeout, and keeps it really simple. When Jeremy has kind of regressed back into throw me the ball and let me go to work mode, those have been his stinkiest games, for sure. And who else on the roster could you even call a shot creator? Denny, but he hasn't been that. He hasn't been there yet. His positive moments have been as a rebounder, someone who gets to the free throw line, and that's shot creation to some extent. That's offensive creation to some extent. But in terms of like, we need a bucket, who can we throw the ball to and go get us a quality bucket? The Blazers are really light on that. I think we knew they were going to be light on shooting. I think that was obvious, like whatever. 12 minutes into preseason, it was like, yeah, they don't have enough shooters on the roster. They just don't have enough dudes who can shoot, and the spacing is always going to be an issue. I don't think even when Shane Sharp comes back and even Matisse Thybulle or whatever, I don't think they're magically going to become a team that is like even an average shooting team in the league. I think they're going to be one of the worst shooting teams in the league all year long. That's just a reality. But beyond that, just not enough creators on offense. That's going to be their struggle all year. How many dudes on the team can create their own shot and shots for others? The ability to get into your own offense and also be a passer when you get creative, create an advantage, draw defensive attention, and then make plays off of that defensive attention. The Blazers are missing that. And through first 5 games, it's clear they don't have enough of that. They just don't, straight up. That is not how they're going to win games. They're going to win games by playing hard and being pretty good on defense and leaning on the creators they do have and making enough shots around those creators to get it done. Those are the 5 things we've learned. Blazers head into the weekend with a couple games, including Friday nights for a one stop on back at the Moda Center against the Thunder, and then back out on the road for 4 after that. This is an unforgiving early schedule. So, by the time we talk about the next 5 games, we may have learned some difficult truths. But I think there are things to feel good about after 5 games, even if this team is going to end up losing, 55 games or whatever it might be in the end. Come back for more shows next week. We'll do 5 of them. Trying to line up a couple interviews for next week. It's going to be a bunch of fun. Wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.